3 spine-chilling true summertime horror tales. Discover the sinister secrets exposed in the heat. Clara never thought that summer could bring such dread. In the heart of Oakwood Grove, the sun shone brightly, casting an almost idyllic glow over the identical houses that lined the street. However, something lurked beneath the surface. Rumors of missing pets drifted through the neighborhood like the stifling summer air, whispering dark secrets that made Clara shudder. Straining under the weight of 2 part-time jobs to support her 15-year-old daughter, Lily, Clara had always felt protective, but lately, an unsettling feeling crept into her gut. Lily, with her bright eyes and sharp mind, often picked up on things that others couldn't. Strange sounds drifted through their open windows at night, softer than a breath but sharper than a scream. And then there was Mr. Thompson, their elderly neighbor, whose lingering gaze felt like a cold hand against Clara's skin. Why did he always ask about their comings and goings? Each question shifted the air, making Clara's heart race. As the summer heat clung to her skin, Clara's exhaustion sunk in deeper into her bones. Families poured into the streets for the annual town fair, laughter echoing in the distance, while she and Lily remained at home, a rattling stillness enveloping them. It was that night, as Lily's hesitant voice broke the silence, that the unease turned into a chill. "Mom, did you hear the kids laughing last week? It sounds different now. Like they're scared." Clara felt a cold sweat break out, panic slicing through her. She began to search online, her fingers trembling as she typed. Digging through pages, she uncovered a history of families that had disappeared from Oakwood Grove, their names lost to time like echoes fading into nothing. A knot tightened in her stomach as she read. Was it folklore, the guardian spirit gone rogue, devouring families? As her grandma once warned, the shadows in their home seemed to stretch longer that night. As Clara pored over the barely there newspaper clippings, dread coiled tighter around her heart. With every new detail, every heartbeat, the walls whispered secrets that should never be known. She took a deep breath, a desperate act of courage, and glanced at the window. Mr. Thompson stood, his silhouette etched against the night, peering into her world, waiting. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. With a surge of adrenaline, Clara felt her instincts kick in. She concocted excuses to keep Lily close, trapping them in a bubble of safety as they armed themselves with flashlights and courage. Dread drenched the air, and the summer heat felt like an invisible hand squeezing the life out of her. Tension filled the house until Clara could hardly breathe. Did Mr. Thompson harbor dark intentions? Each tick of the clock echoed louder, a countdown to something inevitable. Night fell heavy around them, wrapping the world in gloom while whispers seeped through like smoke. Clara's gaze flicked back to the window, heart pounding, a cruel reminder of their fragile reality. Mr. Thompson's gaze trailed into their home, his expression unreadable. The reality loomed like a specter. Were they being watched? And, deeper yet, was this an invitation to peril they couldn't ignore? Clara's breath caught, dread clawed its way up her throat. A storm was brewing just outside their door. Would they fall victim to the darkness, or would they unearth its truth before it was too late? Clara's heart raced as the shadows shifted outside. The moonlight, silver and ghastly, illuminated the yard, revealing tangled weeds and the dark outline of Mr. Thompson, motionless, as if he were part of the night itself. What was he waiting for? Her instincts screamed at her to pull Lily closer, to protect her from whatever threat lingered in the air. "Mom, I'm scared." Lily's voice trembled, pulling Clara's attention back to the living room, where her daughter clutched her flashlight like a lifeline. Clara forced a smile, but it felt brittle on her lips. "Let us go to your room," she said, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her. They climbed the stairs, every creak echoing in the silence, as if each sound were a warning bell. Closing the door behind them, Clara drew the curtains tightly, blocking out the oppressive glare of the outside world. Inside the dim glow of Lily's room, the air felt thick not from heat, but from fear. Clara could hardly swallow, her heart pounding in her throat. She glanced once more at the window, the curtain fabric rustling as if someone were standing right outside. The night seemed to taunt her with whispered secrets. "Mom, what if something happens?" Lily's voice cracked. Clara kneeled beside her, careful not to let her own panic show. "We're safe, honey. We have each other." But the words tasted like ashes in her mouth. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the silence, a sound above their heads. The attic. Clara jumped to her feet, her mind racing. They'd never put anything in the attic. What could possibly have caused that noise? "Stay here," she ordered, her heart hammering as she took a hesitant step toward the door. She still remembered the time they had gone up there together, the way the darkness swallowed them whole. But this time, alone, Clara felt each step heavier than the last. She gripped the old banister, its cool surface grounding her. As she crested the stairs, the sounds from above grew more erratic. Something was moving. Holding her breath, she approached the attic door, creaking on rusty hinges. As she pulled it open, Clara peered into the darkened space, her flashlight cutting through the gloom. Dust motes spiraled through the air like tiny ghosts. Then she heard it again, scratching, scuttling, a sound that sent chills racing down her spine. She took a cautious step inside, every instinct screaming to retreat. "Hello?" she called, her voice echoing back, swallowed by the darkness. Silence answered, but the scratching persisted. Suddenly, something darted by her foot, a shadow flitting against the wall. Clara jumped back, fear wrapping around her like chains. "Is it just a rat?" "Just a rat," she whispered to herself, trying to dispel the terror clawing at her insides. Then she noticed it. A trap door, half open, concealed behind old boxes. A muffled whimper seeped through. Was it human? "Lily!" Clara cried out, hurrying back down the stairs. She felt something brush her ankle. Looking back, she saw a flash of movement before it slipped into the shadows of the attic. It happened too fast, a glimpse of fur, its eyes gleaming like tiny stars. "Lily! We have to leave, now!" Clara shouted, her heart in her throat as she barreled down the halls. The thunder of her pulse drowned out the scratching, but it felt like their confined world was closing in. They raced for the front door, the summer night suddenly feeling like an icebox of terror. The door creaked open as she yanked it wide, night air hitting them like a slap. "Mom!" But the words died in Lily's throat as they both froze. Mr. Thompson stood in their yard, unmoving. He grinned. And beside him, in the moonlight, Clara could see small shapes clustering at his feet. "Do you want to find out what happened to all the pets?" he asked, voice silky and cold. "You've come looking for answers, and I can show you." Clara's heart dropped, the darkness behind her locking tight. How deep did this horror go? As the figures stirred, Clara realized some answers were better left undiscovered. Was this the moment they'd finally confront the shadows lurking in Oakwood Grove, or the start of a true nightmare? The smile on Mr. Thompson's face twisted into something grotesque. The shapes at his feet wriggled and jostled, small bodies pressing against one another, eyes wide and glinting. Clara's breath hitched in her throat as the horror of the scene took form. It wasn't just a cluster of animals, no, it was far worse. They looked like pets. Pets that should have been home safe, tucked in their beds, but instead were here, in the clutches of a man who exuded menace. "Mom, I don't like this," Lily whispered, clutching Clara's wrist like a vice, her eyes pooling with unshed tears. "Step away!" Clara yelled, hoping the urgency would shake her daughter from her shock. But Mr. Thompson's smirk only widened. "A mother always thinks she knows what's best for her child," he taunted, his voice lilting mockingly. "But you see, dear Clara, it's the nature of things that we cannot protect our loved ones from the truth. With a swift movement, he gestured towards the creatures at his feet. Their frightened yelps sent ice coursing through Clara's veins. These weren't just lost pets, they were prisoners. "Why are you doing this?" she managed to spat out, panic flooding her veins. "I'm merely showing them a different kind of home," he replied, the gleam in his eyes darkening with delight. "You see, some of us are destined for roles far beyond mere living beings. They are special, just like you." Clara shook her head, her voice trembling. "You're sick. You need help." Just then, a black cat with a collared bell made a break for them, sprinting across the lawn. It stopped short when it reached Mr. Thompson, mewing in distress and scratching at his shins, as if trying to claw its way back to safety. A sharp laugh erupted from Mr. Thompson, joyful and twisted. "Ah, yes. Just like that. You can't resist trying to save the ones you love, can you?" "But it's futile, Clara." The air crackled with tension. Clara felt her heart pounding harder with every word, her instincts screaming for her to turn and run, yet her feet remained rooted in place. In that moment, fear morphed into determination. "This ends now," she said, a resolve building as she stepped forward, pulling Lily behind her protectively. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, Clara spotted a garden spade, half buried in the dirt. She lunged for it, gripping the cold handle as if it was a sword. "Get back!" she shouted as she brandished the spade, adrenaline sharpening her voice. The amusement faded from Mr. Thompson's face, replaced by an unreadable glare. "You think you can stop me? You and your pathetic weapon? Lily, run!" Clara screamed, a surge of panic pushing Lily into motion, darting back towards the house, but Mr. Thompson didn't move, and with a flick of his wrist, the shadows around him shifted. The pets began to crawl forward, eyes glowing with eerie light, revealing a new terror. "You think they're innocent? They're bound to me now," he hissed, each word thick with malice, "just like your little girl will be." Reality warped and twisted. The oppressive night air thickened, swirling with an unseen force. Clara's grip tightened around the spade, but her resolve wavered. She could see it now, the sinister magic that bound these creatures to him, and the heights of horror he was willing to reach to keep his twisted collection. "What do you want from us?" Clara's voice cracked, but the answer lay behind the night's haunting sky, deeper and darker than she ever dared to imagine. Just then, something in the darkness behind Mr. Thompson moved, more than simple shadows, more than glimmers of past pets. As Clara squinted her eyes against the darkness, an unnatural windswept howl echoed through the air. The ground trembled beneath her feet. What arose was more than she could have prepared for, flaring instinctual dread. The stakes were rising, the lines between predator and prey blurred. Was she too late to save Lily? Clara clenched her jaw, courage igniting within her heart. What would she sacrifice to thwart this nightmare? "Get away from my daughter!" Clara shouted, stepping into the unknown, fists ready for the shadowed menace ahead. But as the true form of Mr. Thompson's creation emerged, Clara's stomach dropped in disbelief and terror. What had they stumbled into, and would her love be enough to conquer the horrors lurking in the darkest corners? The darkness stirred, and from it emerged a creature of nightmare. It was not just an amalgamation of familiar shapes, but something more twisted, more grotesque. The pets Clara once recognized twisted together, eyes bulging, fur matted with fear and woven into a single, writhing horror. A cacophony of mewls and growls came from its grotesque form, limbs moving at unnatural angles. Clara felt bile rise in her throat. "Behold," Mr. Thompson sneered, eyes gleaming with malicious delight, "the essence of despair. The beauty in suffering." He stepped aside, gesturing grandly at the abomination. Clara's heart raced, each beat pounding against her chest as panic clawed at her throat. Lily stood frozen, paralyzed by terror. Clara's protective instincts surged again. "Run, Lily! Now!" She screamed, but her voice felt swallowed by the weight of impending doom. Without hesitation, Clara took a step forward, brandishing the spade. "You want to take her?" Her voice was fierce, though her hands trembled. A low growl rumbled from the creature, a chilling sound that echoed in the still night. Mr. Thompson laughed, a psychotic edge to his joy. "You think you can save her with that toy? These are not mere pets anymore, they are a part of something greater, something monstrous." Driven by fear and a desperate need to protect her daughter, Clara stepped closer, willing her legs to move forward. The air crackled with tension, thick with the stench of something rotting and foul. The creature moved, its many eyes locking onto Clara's with predatory intent, as if assessing her for weaknesses. "Join them," Mr. Thompson commanded, his voice weaving through the oppressive air. "Let her become a part of this, let her embrace the darkness that binds us all." A wave of despair crashed over Clara. The thought of losing Lily to whatever evil swirled in that space felt like a blade twisting in her gut. She swung the spade wildly, swinging it towards the monstrosity. A screech echoed through the night, a horrific blend of her daughter's frightened scream and the anguished cries from the creature. The weapon connected with something soft, a mass of fur and pain, but the horror did not falter. It only twisted, reforming, multiplying like weeds in a garden. "Futile." Mr. Thompson chuckled, his glee mounting. "Let me show you what despair looks like when it festers." With a flicker of his wrist, the creature lunged forward. Clara flinched, only to feel a tug at her sleeve. It was Lily, her small hand gripping Clara's arm, eyes wide with fear but burning with the determination of a child too innocent to fully grasp the horror unfolding. "Mom, we have to go," Lily cried, tugging harder. Clara's world sharpened into focus, her instincts roaring to life. The ground trembled, a fissure cracking down the lawn beside them. Clara turned to retreat, yanking Lily towards the house. The creature thrashed, cacophonous growls chasing them down, anger and desperation intertwining. As they stumbled back onto the porch, Clara could hear Mr. Thompson's laughter echoing behind them, low and menacing. "You can run, but when the night is over, I will have what is mine." Just as Clara slammed the door shut, a shadow passed over the windows. Darkness coiled around the edges of their vision, suffocating the light. The walls seemed to pulse, the house itself shivering as if alive, as if the terror outside was clawing to come in. Panting, Clara turned to Lily. "We need to find a way out of this. Now." But as she scanned the room, dread returned in waves. The shadows in every corner felt thicker, darker. Every whispered sound seemed to twist into whispers that crawled down her spine. This battle was far from over, yet how could they fight an evil that had already seeped into their lives? Suddenly, a soft thud echoed from the other side of the door, followed by a soft, mournful meow. Clara's heart sank. It was the black cat. What had happened to it and the others? What were they truly facing? "Mom?" Lily's voice trembled, a widening fear starting to creep into her eyes again. A twisted discussion of life and death loomed ahead, and Clara realized that the night was only beginning. Where would their next step lead them? Clara's breath came in ragged gasps as she pressed her ear against the door, straining to hear beyond the shadows. The faint sounds of scratching pulled at her instincts, a deep-rooted terror bubbling in her gut. The cat had been there, or what was left of it. How could they escape when even their sanctuary was under siege? "Mom, what's happening?" Lily's voice trembled, pierced through the heavy silence. Clara turned to see her daughter's wide eyes, shimmering with tears, reflecting the flickering light from a lamp in the corner. The mundane light seemed absurd against the backdrop of horror unfolding outside. "Stay close to me, Lily," Clara whispered, adrenaline rushing through her veins. Palms sweating, she reached for the drawer beside the lamp. It might hold something more useful than a spade. As she rifled through its contents, it struck her, would anything be enough? She could already feel the malevolence coiling around them. A sudden crash reverberated through the house, and Clara stumbled back, instinctively pulling Lily behind her. What was that? Lily's breath hitched, her small frame trembling against Clara's side. "Stay quiet," Clara hissed, forcing her eyes away from the door. Adrenaline surged. Panic clashed against the need for a plan. But how could they think straight when the darkness outside felt alive, a breathing entity waiting to strike? The air shifted, heavy with a sense of dread that enveloped them. Clearly, Mr. Thompson had not only summoned a monster but unleashed the darkness that dwelled deep in their lives. A shiver coursed through Clara. The walls whispered secrets, a cacophony of lost voices intertwining with threatening murmurs, echoing her growing dread. Whispers permeated her mind, tapping into her deepest fears. What if the creature was their beloved pets? Ones twisted in agony? What if they were already lost? Mom? The timbre of Lily's voice cut through the fog of paranoia. What if it gets in here? The thought struck Clara like a cold slap. She hadn't been thinking of what would happen if the creature breached their makeshift fortress. They'd have to prepare. Her fingers brushed against something solid, a flashlight. She whipped it out, the battery's faint light barely piercing the encroaching shadows. As she turned to face Lily, she froze. Behind her daughter were eyes. Many eyes, all glistening like dark jewels in the dim light, opening from behind the curtain. Clara gasped, the flashlight flickering madly as the figure of Mr. Thompson materialized from the darkness, his face a twisted snarl that danced with laughter. "Did you really think you could hide?" he purred, voice dripping with malice. She wanted to scream, to shatter the menacing aura he cast upon them, but the sound caught in her throat. "Stop!" Clara shouted, lifting the flashlight towards him, as if it could push back the abyss. Mr. Thompson's laughter only intensified. "You haven't realized yet, have you? They are coming back for you. And they're hungry." With a snap of his fingers, shadows exploded, swirling and solidifying into the shapes Clara knew all too well, her once beloved cats now twisted, their features writhing in pain. Fluffy body parts fused with haunting howls escaped their twisted forms, echoing the cries of lost pets, cries of a mother's heart broken in despair. "Mom, please." Lily's voice broke again, pulling Clara from the impending hysteria. The walls shook as the dreadful entities surged forward, clawing at the threshold. The air grew thick with their cries, an orchestra of horror, layering despair over despair. Their bitter sorrow wrapped around Clara and Lily, cloaking them in an icy grasp. She had to think, had to act. With the monster's eyes all around them, the faint light of the flashlight began to dim. "Lily, we have to make a choice." "A choice about what?" "A back door? The attic?" There seemed no clear path forward, only the fade of light. "Mom, what can we do?" Lily pleaded, panic mounting. In that fleeting moment, Clara glanced at the back window, half broken and framed by the encroaching figures. Beyond inky blackness lay the woods, thick and haunting. Escape? A pounding echoed. Was it the door? Or the dull beating of their hearts? "Follow me, Lily." Clara grabbed her hand and surged forward as the door rattled violently. A decision made in desperation, igniting a flicker of hope, but would they reach freedom, or were they racing into the same nightmare waiting just beyond? As they stumbled toward the window, the darkness closed in, a shifting maw threatening to swallow them whole. What awaited them outside? And could they ever truly escape, even if they broke free? The window squeaked as Clara heaved it open, glass shards scattered across the floor like a warning. A chill wind seeped in, carrying the pungent smell of damp earth mixed with something worse, decay. "Go!" she urged, shoving Lily through the opening, her heart racing as she glanced back. The shadows writhed with menace, the howls intensifying into a chilling chorus. Clara followed, barely fitting her body through the jagged rim, losing her grip on the flashlight in her urgency. The beam extinguished as it hit the ground, plunging them into darkness. They tumbled onto the ground, the world a blur of cold gravel and looming trees. Clara quickly pulled Lily close, scanning their surroundings. The woods loomed like a forgotten nightmare, twisted branches clawing at the night sky. "Mom, I can't see," Lily cried, her voice shaky. "Keep quiet," Clara whispered, fear slithering through her chest. The shadows inside the house were hunting them. As they crept away from the glowing backlight of their former sanctuary, Clara strained to hear the familiar sounds of night crickets, rustling leaves, but only silence swallowed them whole. The dissonance sent spikes of panic into her mind. Where were the animals? Where were the familiar sounds? In the oppressive stillness, a distant rustle broke through. Clara froze, her heart thumping wildly against her ribcage. "Did you hear that?" she asked quietly. Lily nodded, eyes wide in terror. Then it came again, closer this time, a growl, low and menacing, thrumming through the air like a warning bell. Clara's instincts kicked in, pulling Lily behind a large, gnarled tree trunk that could barely shield them from whatever stalked the night. "Stay still," Clara murmured. Each seconds felt like hours, the waiting unbearable. Every beat of her heart was a drum signaling dread, and then the whispering began. Clara, the voice wrapped around her like spectral ice, seeping into her thoughts. "Mom, what is that?" Lily whimpered, gripping her arm. But it was too late for answers. Shadows danced just beyond her view, forming monstrous shapes that flickered in and out of reality. A silhouette broke away from the other shadows, a figure so familiar. It seemed like Mr. Thompson, but twisted like the others, an amalgamation of flesh and rage. "You brought them here." The voice resonated with glee, a sound both authoritative and mocking. Clara's mind spiraled. How could something she once trusted become so horrifying? "Get away!" she yelled, stepping out from behind the tree, confronting the figure as all sanity unraveled. "You don't get to do this. Not to my daughter." The creature chuckled, deeply amused. "You still don't understand," he said, his eyes bearing into her soul. "This isn't my doing. They've always been here. It was more than a monster, it was a catalyst for horrors buried deep in the earth and the memories of those who walked these woods." Each lost whisper, each scream echoed their plight. She realized they were the very souls of the forsaken pets, trapped by choices made in greed. The ground began to tremble beneath her feet as darkness weaved through the trees. Clara could feel the thrum of desperation creeping up her spine. "We need to run." But before she could pull Lily along, another shadow surged forward, a scaly hand wrapping around Clara's ankle. She screamed, thrashing, but it only pulled her deeper into its cold grip. "No! Lily, go!" Terror etched across her daughter's face. Lily's legs seemed frozen, paralyzed by the horror unfolding. "Mom!" she cried, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Run! Don't look back!" Clara's voice tore from her throat as the darkness started to close in, wrapping around her like barbed wire. But the creature just laughed, a cruel melody dancing on the wind around them. It was undeniable, the woods were alive, a living nightmare beckoning them deeper. Would Lily retain the hope to flee? Could Clara break free if she released herself from the grip of despair? As Clara felt herself being dragged into the shadows, she screamed, "Get help! Please!" Lily finally turned away, scrambling through the underbrush, but Clara's heart sank. What if this was just the beginning? What waited for them in the depths of the woods? The shadows thickened, reverberating with taunting whispers, and a final chilling voice echoed through the trees, "You belong to us now." And in that horrifying moment of truth, it all came crashing down. Would anyone ever emerge from the darkness, or would they become the next tales woven into the wood's hungry lore? Lily didn't dare look back. The weight of her mother's terrifying screams hung in the air like smoke, pressing against her lungs, suffocating. Branches whipped at her face, snagging at her clothes, but she pressed on, fueled by pure instinct to survive. The darkness felt alive, shadows shifting and convulsing, whispering her name like a cruel joke. "Please, Mom!" she sobbed, slipping on the cold, wet ground as she stumbled deeper into the wood. The cries echoed in her mind, her heart raced at the thought that she might lose Clara forever. Could she find help? Where was help when it was needed most? Just ahead, a faint flicker danced among the trees, a dim light, the promise of safety or merely another trap set by the lurking darkness. It drew her in, pulling her away from the suffocating anxiety that gripped her. "Mom! Help!" Lily shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. But the woods swallowed her voice, carving silence out of her cries. The light grew brighter as she neared, revealing the outline of a dilapidated farmhouse. It loomed above her, sagging and beaten by the years, but the soft glow appeared to beckon her. The door hung ajar, creaking ominously with the breeze. Was anyone inside? She dared to hope, but dread twisted her stomach into knots. Faint sounds drifted through the air, a celebration, laughter, music mixed with the whispers of a forgotten past. Heart pounding, she stepped closer, peering into the darkness of the doorway. The inside of the house was dim and decayed, but a warm light flickered from the far end, illuminating the faces of strangers gathered around an old table. They smiled, but their eyes were dull, void of true life. "Come join us, little one," one of the figures called, its voice a soothing lull disguised as a trap. The others nodded encouragingly, their mouths twisting into manic grins. "We've been waiting for you." Forcing herself to breathe through the wave of icy fear, Lily's gaze darted to the far corner. A small window revealed Clara's cries haunting the night. She couldn't abandon her mother, not for the dead-eyed faces beckoning her in. "No. I have to help my mom," Lily shouted, stepping back. The figure's smiles faltered, shadows crawling from the walls, reaching for her. The light dimmed as they loomed closer. "Don't be foolish, child. You could be with us forever," one of them hissed, its grin sharpening into a serrated line. Panicking, Lily turned, racing back into the woods. It was darker, colder, and she felt their presence trailing her, the wails of the forgotten blending with her mother's terrifying call. "Mom, I'm coming," she cried, bursting through the trees and bracing herself against the memory of her mother's voice, seeing Clara trapped in the suffocating shadows of the forest. But there was a shift, silence swamped the woods, a heavy hush that felt unnatural. Then she heard it, a low, rumbling growl vibrating from the ground beneath her. Lily froze, dread pooling in her gut. The shadows were no longer just moving, they were gathering, swirling around like a storm closing in. "Mom?" she shouted desperately, echoing her earlier pleas. "Unlock the door, Lily. It's behind me." Clara's voice broke through like a piercing white light in the darkness, but it was sharper than the screams before. Across the clearing, a massive shape moved, shifting from the trees. It was not human, it slithered, limbs bending in ways that defied nature. Eyes glowed with a predatory hunger, locking onto Lily, and she instinctively recoiled. "Lily, please." Clara's voice cracked, urgency flooding the air. "You have to," but the shadow loomed closer, cutting off her mother's voice with a visceral snarl. Lily's pulse thundered, she could almost taste the fear on her tongue. Would running save her, or would it lead to the same emptiness that trapped Clara? In that moment, a memory flickered, the stories she'd once heard of the woods, of the dark things that lingered in forgotten corners. A flood of realization washed over her, and instinct propelled her forward. "I won't leave you." As she dashed toward Clara's figure, the shadows erupted, piercing through the darkness like malevolent veins, intertwining with her own cries. The unseen captor was sabbatical, ready to take them both. "Mom!" she shouted again, her voice firm, breaking through the curtain of despair. The air crackled with impending chaos as she sprinted toward the darkness that was her mother, knowing she had to get past the monstrous shadow trapping her, but the question loomed large: would the darkness consume them both, or could they fight their way back from this living nightmare? Lily's breath hitched as the grasping shadows coiled tighter, the woods alive with hunger, ready to claim her like they had claimed so many others. What was waiting for them beyond that darkness? Lily pushed against the weight of the encroaching shadows, the fear wrapping around her like a vice. Each frantic heartbeat urged her to run, but her legs felt as if they were made of stone, cemented to the cold, damp earth. The monstrous form crested the tree-line, its twisted silhouette stark against the flicker of moonlight, and she could barely breathe. "Mom!" She screamed, but the sound was swallowed by a gust of wind that twisted through the trees, creating a cacophony of whispers and wails. She had to get to Clara had to unlock the door before the darkness enveloped them both. Suddenly, the shadows lunged. They coiled like serpents, slithering through the air toward her, ready to pull her under. Heart racing, Lily darted to the side, her foot slipping in the mud and leaving her vulnerable. But the slanting form hesitated, as if sensing something powerful in her despair. "Do not fear the dark, little one," it hissed, its voice dripping like a thick black tar. "Join us, and we will protect you." Clara's voice erupted into the air again, sharper now, filled with authority. "Lily! Fight back! You have to fight!" With a surge of adrenaline, Lily remembered the stories from her childhood, how light could repel the shadows that haunted the woods. The light, she needed it. It was there, flickering somewhere in that cursed farmhouse. The last vestige of hope. Without thinking, she turned, sprinting toward the deteriorating structure as branches whipped against her, screaming against her escape. The night pulsed with chaos, the growl of the creature echoed behind her as it charged, its presence a mass of dread approaching fast. "Mom!" Lily shouted, her voice strained. "Hold on. I'm almost there." The door of the farmhouse burst open just as she reached it, the warm light inside brightening in welcome, a stark contrast to the festering darkness behind her. She stumbled through the threshold, gasping. The warmth enveloped her, a fragile shield against the creeping horror lurking outside. Inside, the figures from before were gone, replaced by a thin, silver-haired man standing in the center of the room. His eyes were wide, glinting with understanding and fear. "You shouldn't have come here, child," he whispered, stepping back. "Where's my mom?" Lily cried, panic flooding her. "The darkness is a cruel master," he said, his voice gravelly yet soothing, "and it doesn't want you to escape." His eyes darted to the window, shadows gathering beyond the worn glass. "You must leave this place now." "What do you mean?" "I can't leave without my mother." He shook his head, stepping closer. "There are doors in this house, doors to the dark and light, but once you open one, there's no going back." Lily felt the ground beneath her shift, the very air throbbed with the weight of conflict. She remembered Clara's voice, urging her to fight, to decide. Outside, the creature thrashed against the light of the farmhouse, its growl a distant but relentless echo. "Please!" she cried, the desperation clawing at her throat. "I have to save her." He hesitated, casting a glance over his shoulder at the window. "Then you must make your choice, and it must be now. The light or the dark, once you make it, everything changes." Lily's heart thundered in her chest as the shadows battered against the walls. She could feel Clara's presence tugging at her from the depths of the night, a faint, pleading thread pulling her back toward that suffocating darkness. What if she chose wrong? "Choose, child." The old man beckoned, voice rising with urgency. With her fate hanging in the balance and the world around her spiraling into chaos, Lily took a deep breath, her heart drumming against her ribs. The decision loomed large, and as she stepped toward the flickering light, something deep within her whispered an unknown secret. Could she truly decipher the true meaning of light and dark? The howling wind swirled violently, and as Lily reached for the door leading to the light, a chilling realization gripped her soul. What if Clara was never waiting on the other side? Just as she grasped the door handle, a piercing scream rose from the darkness outside, one that cut through the night like a knife. "Mom!" And there it was again, the low growl, reverberating with a new level of menace. Would it be too late for both of them? The choice was looming and there was no time left. Lily's breath caught in her throat as the door handle felt slick beneath her palm. Time hung suspended in a suffocating silence, the shadows just outside the threshold writhing, eager to break through. She looked back at the old man, whose eyes were filled with a mixture of pity and terror. "Make your decision," he urged, panic tinging his voice. The walls trembled as if the house itself sensed her indecision. The scream outside shattered her hesitation, riding on the wind like shards of glass. "Lily." It was Clara's voice, frantic and raw. The sound sent her heart crashing against her ribs like a wanton beast trying to escape a cage. The old man's gaze darted toward the window again. "You have to choose. You can't let her sacrifice herself." His words blared like sirens in her ears, drowning out everything else. But what if she opened the wrong door? What if there was no saving Clara at all? A thick darkness pressed against the farmhouse, eager to seep through the cracks in the floorboards and the peeling walls. It wanted her, needed her to succumb to despair. In that moment, doubt clawed at her, nagging like a restless shadow whispering lies of her mother's fate. "Remember that light repels darkness," she whispered to herself, thinking back to every story that filled her childhood, warmth pouring from every word. But those words felt empty now, brushstrokes against the backdrop of her stark reality. Driven by instinct, she yanked the door open with a force born of desperation. The light spilled out, enveloping her in its warmth, and she felt the shadows recoil as if burned by a flame. Yet, delays were a luxury she could not afford. Clara's voice twisted like a knife, igniting every nerve in her body. "Mom!" Lily screamed again, stepping into the light, every ounce of hope propelled by the need to save her mother. But just as she crossed the threshold, a horrifying shriek pierced the air, a mocking echo of Clara's once familiar call, twisted and distorted. "Lily!" The voice morphed, shifting into something dark. "You left me." A rush of icy dread flooded her limbs. Was it really Clara? Or a trap laid by the lurking shadows? "Close it!" the old man shouted, his hands flailing with an urgency that struck her core. "You'll unleash it." She hesitated, the light flickering, wavering. Behind her, the wail became all-encompassing, filled with a despair that chilled her blood. "Mom!" The last word burst from her lips, fueled by desperation and love. "Choose!" the old man shouted, panic cracking his voice, but a shroud of doubt paralyzed her. Clara was the embodiment of warmth, the light in her life. This shadowy version was a trick, right? But what if it wasn't? Lily fought back tears, torn between two worlds. She felt her heart achieve an impossible rhythm, racing like a horse at the starting gate. "Please," she whispered, sweat trickling down her spine. "Which is the true path?" The moment stretched into eternity. Her mind spun, weighed down by memories, Clara's laughter, her gentle embrace, her whispered tales of bravery. Could she really abandon that love for the fickle nature of light? Shadows surged at the door, elongating, growing teeth that dripped with malice. "Lily!" The voice became closer, the warmth of her mother just within reach, yet frighteningly out of grasp. With a strangled cry, she slammed the door shut, the sound echoing like a strike of doom. The light pulsed, flickered again, and chaos erupted. "What have you done?" the old man gasped, the walls rattling as the shadows screamed in fury. Lily's heart sank as the darkness bellowed, its wrath unleashed. A force she had no understanding of roared against her, furious as it pushed against the door, a monstrous tide of despair rising like a storm about to break. She realized then, as the shadows crashed against the barricade, that she may have just sealed both their fates in a way far worse than she could ever imagine. What lay beyond the door? And was Clara truly lost forever? The lights flickered one last time before plunging her into an oppressive darkness, and the echoes of her mother's cries reverberated within her, growing closer, more desperate, and in that gloom, a chilling whisper echoed, "You have chosen, but darkness always demands a price." What would it take to turn back the clock? Would she dare to open the door again, inviting whatever waited on the other side? The next choice loomed ominously, heavy with the weight of the past and the hope for the future. The darkness pressed in on Clara, thick and suffocating. It gripped at her throat, whispering fears she had locked away. With a trembling heart, she fought against the shadows that twisted around her, aching for a glimpse of light, of Lily. "Mom!" Lily's voice echoed like a haunting melody, lost in the shadows, but it tugged at her heart, igniting a raging fire against the despair that surrounded her. Clara could not fail her daughter, she could not let the darkness take them both. "No," she shouted, her voice breaking through the choking shroud. "I won't let you take her." In that moment, a sliver of ice-white light broke through the blackness, an ethereal glow that pushed against the endless night. It flickered like a heartbeat in the distance. Clara's instincts surged, drawing her toward it. The light was a promise, a memory of safety wrapped in love. With each step, she felt the weight of the shadows pulling back, almost terrified of the light's warm embrace. She raced through her memories, of laughter shared with Lily, of bedtime stories filled with heroes battling dark monsters. The love she held for her daughter flooded her veins, urging her forward. "Stay back!" She warned the shadows, her voice steadying, fueled by determination. "You can't have us." As if hearing her plea, the dark creatures snarled behind her, a cacophony of anguished cries bursting forth. Clara pressed on, gripping the edges of the phantom light, feeling its warmth seep into her skin, stoking her resolve. "Lily!" she screamed, desperation coursing through her heart. That fierce love propelled her forward, every inch feeling like a war against the shadows grasping at her ankles, trying to pull her down into the abyss that in the depths of the night. A shadow shifted, revealing the haggard form of Mr. Thompson, twisted by the darkness. "You dare challenge me?" he hissed, but Clara stood firm. "You will not keep us. You will not ruin my family." Her voice emerged as a battle cry, resonating through the air, mingling with the energy of the encroaching light. Suddenly, she felt it, the pulse of connection between her and Lily, a tether stronger than fear itself. "I'm coming, Lily." Her courage rippled, igniting the glimmering light behind her, spreading like wildfire. The shadows recoiled, as if frightened, swirling back towards the monster that had taken over Mr. Thompson's essence. "Lily!" Clara called again, a wave of determination pushing her feet forward toward the familiar sound of her daughter's voice. She could feel that voice resonating, gripping at her very soul, the embodiment of hope. At last, she burst through the shroud, illuminating the space ahead. Just beyond the threshold, she saw Lily, trembling but fierce, her silhouette framed by the glow of the farmhouse door. "Mom!" They echoed together, the words binding them tighter than any darkness could sever. "Grab my hand!" Clara shouted as she lunged forward. But a dark mass surged, wrapping around her body, tightening like a noose. "No! You cannot leave!" Mr. Thompson's voice, now deeper and more sinister, clutched at her. Despair clawed at her heart, but suddenly, Clara felt a warmth build inside her, a conflagration born of the love she had for Lily. It blazed fiercely, igniting the darkness encasing her. "You don't control us!" she cried, and with raw strength, she thrust her arm forward, reaching for that thread of light. Lily surged toward her, eyes wide and resolute. "I believe in you, Mom." With a fierce shout, they grasped each other's hands, their united force igniting a burst of brilliance that shot through the air. The shadows wailed in agony as the once familiar darkness shuddered, relinquishing its grip. Clara and Lily surged forward, their shared heartbeat sinking into a rhythm of hope. In that moment, a fissure opened in the darkness, outspilling light and warmth. Everything it touched glimmered with the promise of freedom. They rushed forward, their fears dissipating like mist beneath the sun. As they emerged from the clutches of darkness, the shadows screeched in a chaotic frenzy, retreating into the night. Clara took one last look back at the figure of Mr. Thompson, whose madness twisted in the absence of their light, a shell of his former self, left to drown in the remnants of despair he had birthed. Clara turned to Lily, pulling her close, no longer suffocated by shadows but enveloped in poignant light, filled with warmth and love. Tears streamed down both their faces, not out of fear or despair, but of relief and reunion. They stood together, hand in hand, feeling the cool breeze kiss their flushed cheeks. "We did it," Clara whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Yes, we did, Lily replied, her confidence reclaiming its hold amid the flickering remnants of darkness, but just ahead, the dawning sun began to rise, illuminating Oakwood Grove fully for the first time, casting away the horrors of the night. The house behind them stood silent, shadows now reduced to mere memory. The summer had indeed brought despair, but they had found a way to fight back, reminding the world that light always finds a way to break through. Hand in hand, Clara and Lily took a step, ready to face their new dawn, stronger together than they had ever dared to imagine. With newfound courage, they whispered promises to each other, a vow to remember and protect, to always venture into the light, no matter how daunting the darkness became. As the sun broke over the horizon, they laughed, shaking off the remnants of fear, ready for the summer that now lay before them, a summer filled with hope, adventure, and the beauty of being alive. Now that you've journeyed with Clara and Lily through their heart-pounding struggle against darkness, it's your turn to take a stand. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this thrilling ending, and, wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand how important it is to support the channel.